Good morning, everyone. We're going to do chapter 14 today in the book of Revelation. Last lesson, we learned a lot in chapter 13. I'm not even going to review because if you just went through chapter 13, it was a little bit long. So I want to make chapter 14 short for you guys, okay? So chapter 14 of Revelation, it says, Then I looked, remember we're talking about John, I looked and behold a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 having his father's name written on their forehead. Now John, as I don't know if I've said this before while I was teaching at this point, but John looks in heaven, and then he looks on earth, and then he looks in heaven, and then he looks on earth. He's seen these visions everywhere, and he has to kind of keep up. So here he says, I looked and behold a lamb, capital L, meaning the Lord, and he's standing on Mount Zion with the 144,000. Remember, the 144,000 were sent to the world to proclaim the gospel to the lost people. And so now John sees them on Mount Zion on earth, and they're there. Very simple. And then he says, and I heard a voice from heaven, like the voice of many waters. So we know this voice is heavy, it's loud. And like the voice of loud thunder, and I heard the sound of the harpists playing their harps. So here we have stringed instruments in heaven. I'm not condemning anyone who thinks otherwise, but I want to show that to you here, that many places in the scripture it talks about stringed instruments. And he says that they're the sound of harpists playing their harps. He heard a voice from heaven, many waters, and it sounded like many waters and loud thunders. And the harpists were playing their harps. So John is just seeing these 144,000, the lamb, the harpist, the voice. He's hearing the voices. He's hearing a lot of stuff going on right here. And he says they started singing. They sang as if it were a new song before the throne. Now, he's talking about before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. So God redeemed these 144,000 from the earth, and now they're in heaven. And John's just saying that they're singing as if it were a new song before the throne. And, the elders and everyone, they're listening to this song, but it's their song. Only they know what they went through doing the job that the Lord had for them to do. And then it goes on to say, those are the ones, talking about the 144,000, those are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they were virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and the Lamb, and in their mouths was found no deceit. They were without fault before the throne of God. And we know that there are no perfect men whatsoever, but these men were spiritually virgins. They were spiritually good people. They had no fault, no deceit. They were really for the Lord. They did the work that the Lord had for them to do. They were not defiled. They followed the Lamb. They were redeemed from among men. They were very special. They were first fruits. They committed their lives to Christ. That's all the scriptures telling us. And they followed the Lord no matter what situation they found themselves in. They were set apart for this service to God. And I even just thought about the one small thing there. It says there is no deceit found in their mouth. And again, no one is perfect. I'm not trying to say that, but these guys were set apart. And that's something that we do in an instant. We'll tell a lie. Even if someone calls and says, may I speak to so-and-so, and they're standing right there, and you just say, no, he's not here, or she's not here. Well, that's a lie. And you can tell the truth. You could just say, yes, they're here right now, but can they call you back? You don't have to tell them anything else, but we lie. Instead, we just lie. And the Lord is really on us about lying. You write notes to the teacher about your child being sick, or they're absent because they had the flu or something, and you just lie. You write it down and sign your name to the lie. So we have to just stop doing that. It may not make you the most popular person when you always tell the truth, but you don't have to tell the truth in any kind of hateful way or hurtful way, but just tell the truth. I have really tried to do that in my lifetime, and it doesn't make me popular because I have to tell people the truth. So, but God talks to us so much about that. if you spend too much money and you tell your spouse, well, I didn't spend that, or I didn't buy anything today, don't lie. Just tell the truth. It's so easy to do, to tell the truth. But God was saying that these guys, there was no deceit found in their mouth. I thought that was pretty cool. But God's taking care of these guys. They committed themselves to the Lord, and so now they're in heaven. He's redeemed them from the earth, and that's what John saw. And now all of a sudden, the scene changes again. I like to say it, and I've said it a dozen times already. We're on the same trip. We're looking at different pictures of the trip. If we went on a trip with a vacation with our family, and we have stacks of pictures to look at when we get home, it's the same trip, but different pictures, but different things going on. So he's telling us about the 144,000. He's like saying, phew, they made it. So now we know they're in heaven. And then he says, then I saw, he gets to hear from a bunch of angels right now. He says, then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven. He's in heaven now, seeing the visions, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth. So if we're Christians, we all need the gospel preached to us, but I think you know what I mean. This angel is flying. He's giving a warning to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, meaning everyone, not just people who are like us, everybody, saying with a loud voice, all these angels have a loud voice. He's saying, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, is here, and worship him who made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water. And so, I've got a whole bunch of little silly pictures, but visualize an angel flying through heaven saying, fear God, it's time. The time has come for you. The first angel is flying through heaven, and he's speaking to those who dwell on the earth. He has a loud voice, and he's telling everyone to worship him who made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water. I think that's pretty cool that he added the sea and the springs of water there. He says, then it's just kind of a rapid fire here. He says, I see another angel saying, Babylon has fallen, and the great city, because she has made the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Another angel flying through. And, there's no more Babylon, but back in the day, Babylon nowadays represents Great Britain. But this second angel is speaking of Babylon. Don't let that confuse you. It's saying Babylon has fallen. What it's talking about, Babylon represented evil, immorality. They had wealth and luxury. It was Satan's headquarters. They had everything they needed, and they didn't think they needed the Lord. The Queen of Babel, remember when the tower was built and all in Babylon? The Queen of Babel married her own son. This is a tale that was told. The same queen believed she was born out of a shell, but she was fully grown when she was born. I mean, you get the picture. This Babylon place was just crazy. And we got a lot of places like that nowadays. So anyway, Babylon falls. The first angel comes through and says, fear God. The second angel says, what all you are living for, this nation. And I'm not saying it's Great Britain, but he's talking about Babylon, the world as we know it, has fallen. The Lord is done. It's fallen. And the scripture says that the nations will drink of her wine, the wrath of her fornication. In other words, an alcoholic cannot get enough of alcohol. They cannot get enough of wine. They cannot get enough. And they couldn't get enough of her sin. They were taken by it. And she perverted them the way that she was. And it says, because she has made the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. I mean, people just couldn't get enough of that. Wine is intoxicating. Wine is good. It's expensive. It's addictive. And Babylon will and has and is to come will seduce men to sin. She'll seduce everyone who becomes as corrupt as she. Some will be addicted to that lifestyle, as we well know that's going on today. So then it moves on. It says a third angel comes with a loud voice. I won't keep showing you the angels. With a loud voice saying, another loud voice. So this angel comes through. Babylon's fallen. You better worship God. If anyone worships the beast and his image, remember the beast is the nation and his image would be what is being shown more than likely on TV, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand. Some say in. That would be a microchip, a tattoo, a mark of some type on the right hand or on the forehead, a predominant place. And in the end, you're going to have that mark. If you are involved in the one world government and you have one leader, that leader will make you take this mark so that you can buy food, so that you can do anything, but especially food, so that you can provide for your family. So you better hope that you're not involved in the one world government. That's my advice. So if you're for that, you need to rethink that as a Christian. So he says, he himself also drink of the, if you take this mark, he himself, if you take this mark, you shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God. You're going to drink just the same way Babylon did, of the wrath of God, which is poured out in full strength into the cup of his indignation. Not just a little bit. It's going to be, 100 proof. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever. And they have no rest day and night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. This is a big warning here in Scripture, chapter 14, verses 9 through 11, warning us not to take the mark of the beast, because you're going to go to hell if you do that. And the Bible is all about that. So we understand that. I hope you get that and that you understand that. And this angel had a loud voice, and he's declaring that if you receive the mark, you're going to drink of the wine of the wrath of God. He just talked about the wine of wrath with Babylon. It's something that is addictive, and you're going to drink of that. But you must feign, that's the wine of fornication that you can't get enough of. But God says you're going to drink the wine of wrath of God. You're not going to like that at all. So it's going to be bad. And then he says, here's the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Right, blessed are the dead who die from the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors and their works who will follow them." Now he says, blessed are those who die in the Lord from now on. In the Bible it says, blessed are so many people. I didn't bring that list because I didn't want to make this lesson long, but there's many places in the Bible it talks about blessed are those, blessed are these, but blessed people. And here he's saying blessed are those who die in the Lord from now on, because there are going to be people on the earth who come to know the Lord. There are going to be Christians on the earth who are going to try to fight against taking the mark, and they're going to be martyred, and things are going to happen to them. And he says, "Blessed are those who die in the Lord from now on," because he's given the warnings. The angels are flying through, giving the warnings. Those who die in the Lord are blessed from now on. Speaking of those who die in tribulation, it's a blessed relief actually from the tribulation and the torment that they're going to endure. And then he says, and I looked and behold a white cloud, and on the cloud one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, "Thrust your sickle and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe." He who sat on the cloud thrust his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. So he talks about, reaping. And this is a real pitiful picture of a sickle. But, some of them have long handles, but I wanted to give you an image of what we're talking about using this. It's a harvest. And so he's reaping. And this is Jesus that is doing it. And I believe an angel is getting word from God telling Jesus to do this. And then another angel is there helping. Another angel comes out of the temple, which is in heaven, and he also has a sharp sickle. And another angel came from the altar who had the power over fire, and who cried with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, "Thrust your sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth." Now, we've already been talking about vines and grapes and alcohol and all that, because it all is corresponding together in this chapter. The cluster of the vines of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. When grapes are fully ripe, they're about to bust. They're not going to be any good after too much longer. They're just fully ripe. They've had all that they can take. So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth. The vine, that's where it's growing from, the vine of the earth, and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. These, I believe, when I say I believe, it's my opinion. It does not mean I'm right. It's just the way that I read Scripture. You do not have to agree with me. You do not have to agree that we've even been raptured yet. That's fine. But just, for the sake of this study and because I'm teaching it, I have to teach it the way that I see it. But it is my opinion when I say that I believe Christians are already in heaven, because so many scriptures to me say, and those who dwell on the earth, this and that's happening. And those who dwell on the earth, this and that's happening. Well, that doesn't match up with the Christians. So he says he threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Well, we're not going to get the wrath of God. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 100 furlongs. Now, that what they're saying here, and of course I don't know, none of us do, but they're saying the depth of the blood was very high up to the bridles on the horses. And of course we won't have horses at the end of time like that, but some say it's the blood splattered that high. Some of these scholars who look at it that way, but we don't know. But there's going to be a lot of blood of those who are reaped out of the earth, who are not believers. And they're saying if someone is connected to the earth, it says the vine of the earth, if you're connected with the earth and the ways of the earth, they're like clusters of grapes. They're full, they're fat. They've had so much. They have joined the world and they have multiplied, and they're like vines intertwined and tangled up in the ways of the world. They represent the ones who do not believe in God. This verse does not indicate they were like raisins. They weren't just all dried up. And, they were fat, dumb, and happy, actually. So these clusters of grapes were cut and pressed into the wrath of God and trampled, and then the blood splattered. That's the end of the lesson today. I tried to make it very short for you guys, but I wanted to bring out something just because I'm kind of nerdy sometimes. The battle hymn of the Republic. It says, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." The next part? "He is trampling out the vineyard where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on." That song is about the Bible. So when you sing it, I want you to know that. That is so cool. Just what we studied today about the sickle, the reaping, the winepress, the wrath of God. "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vineyard where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on." And that's what we have to know. Okay, guys, we're rapidly going to end up Revelation here. It won't take but just a couple more weeks for me to finish it up with you guys. And, if we're still on quarantine, perhaps we'll go into another study if you guys let me know. But I certainly don't want to do this if nobody's interested. So God bless. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.